Okay, we've hit 10:02, so I think we'll begin shortly. We'll just go through this webinar. My colleague Dee will give a brief introduction to the topics and Civica as a whole, and then Anitha will go through some further details of this. But if I can hand over Dee from our public sector team.
Thank you, Neil. My name's Dee Barrett. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Welcome to today's presentation, where we'll be covering the benefits of digital transformation within the public sector, and we'll be discussing how appropriate technology can improve effectiveness when responding to information requests and solving case handling challenges. So we have a wide audience on the webinar today, ranging from local authorities, education, NHS and the blue lights, with various teams such as information governance. We've got complaints, representation from employee relations, HR, coroners, registrars and legal teams, so quite a wide breadth of attendees. So my role within Civica is working predominantly in the NHS and the blue light sectors. I also look at new markets in the private sectors as well. And I work alongside my colleagues, Lauren, Holly and Sarah, who work in education, local and central government. And then we also have a team who specifically deal with our legal teams in the public sector. And that's Steve, Richard and Callum. So you may know some of us already. We've had lots of meetings in the public sector, and the purpose of today really is to share our findings on how the public sector are working. On the call today, we have Anitha, who's our pre-sales and solution expert, and will also be running the webinar today. And Anitha and I regularly meet in the public sector organisations, and we talk to organisations that are interested in moving over to digital work streams. And in the meetings, we explore how teams currently work versus the benefit of deploying a central system and the return on investment. So the agenda for today, we'll have a brief introduction to Civica. Some of you may already know us and are dealing with us, and how we impact on today's world. And then Anitha and I will share the content of the conversation we've had with public sector organisations and their journey to move to a cloud-based central platform. So Civica is a worldwide organisation, and we've been providing software solutions and mobilising data across the public sector for over 30 years. And we provide software that's specific to particular sectors, such as in the NHS, who have many softwares doing very different things. So you may have within the NHS, typically in NHS, we'll have up to 5 softwares working, and they could be patient records, prescribing medicines, financial software. And then again in the local authority, again we have sector-specific software, such as handling housing and repairs, revenue, benefits, and also complaints, freedom of information requests. And we also provide cross-sector software, so software that can support many of the common needs across these organisations. So millions of public sector professionals and the citizens they serve are supported by Civica every day. So each day, the typical citizen will be supported by the Civica software without even realising it. So as a member of the public goes about their daily routine, engaging with various public and private sector organisations, the Civica software is often there in the background, supporting the delivery of key services that are used by citizens every day. So whether it's ensuring a child gets the right type of meal at school, or booking a seasonal flu shot, or even electronically voting in elections, the Civica software is often there providing key support for those organisations delivering those services. So in particular, with the Civica Case Management solution, We have over 200 clients using the platform, and we handle significant transactions. So in the year 2023, we handled over 6 million cases. So the case management transactions range from complaints handling, GDPR requests, access to health records, employee relation cases, and registering births, deaths and marriages and other legal cases, and across all the sectors that we mentioned. We also have a good presence in the private sector. So we have Vodafone and Tesco's Bank using our complaints software. Vodafone have 19,000 users of the software. We also have Admiral Insurance, Specsavers and Next, just to name a few. For the next slide, I'm going to hand over to Anitha to introduce herself.
Thank you, Dee. Good morning, everyone. So my name's Anitha Pillai. I'm, as Dee alluded to, a customer solutions consultant within Civica. However, my background is in working in public sector for several years, and I've sort of worked in the digital transformation space, looking at customer journeys and understanding where we can transform public services. I've been working with Civica for the last year, and I work to help organisations sort of maximise your digital opportunities and what's available within the Civica casework case management system, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Just to give you a bit of insight around why digital transformation matters, during some of our conversations with clients, we hear about some of the challenges that they are faced with in the public sector, particularly. And our focus on this webinar is to share some of those insights with you and what we've sort of understood from what the challenges are being faced in the public sector through those real conversations that we've had with clients. To give you a bit of food for thought on some of the advantages in transforming some of your public services within your organisations with the use of a digital solution. So, as we all know, digital transformation has become increasingly important for public sector organisations. Customer demands and expectations have increased and continue to do so. This means organisations need to start to move away from those antiquated processes, the use of sort of outdated technology platforms, and even sort of manual processing that we know that still continues to take place in some organisations. So how can organisations do this? And that's what we're here to kind of talk to you about, and how an integrated platform that is cloud-based can help organisations communicate better with each other and your customers. A solution that will automate a lot of the work for you, the processing, the streamlining, the decision making for a wide variety of cases that Dee alluded to earlier. So it's important that digital transformation not only helps streamline your policies and processes internally, but to a large degree, and we hear this all the time, ties up with cultural transformation. So cultural transformation works hand in hand with digital transformation and helps organisations evolve their sort of culture to achieve the organisation's vision, strategic objectives, and so on. And also is key to ensuring that a positive employee experience for the workforce. So it's not just about your citizens and customer base, but it's also about your employees, the staff that actually carry out those transactions on a day-to-day basis. They both depend on each other to grow and survive. So today we will be talking about how technology in the context of case management and how a digital solution can create a better overall experience for your staff and for customers. Back to you, Dee.
Thank you. So in the conversations that Anitha and I have had in the public sector, usually we start off with a scoping call. So we set up a call and we meet with the team to understand how they're currently processing their requests. And in the conversations that we've had with organisations, we typically find that these teams can be using up to 4 different systems to manage one request. So what we found is that the requests will come in from various different channels, such as phone calls, letters, but predominantly emails, but even referrals from other parts of the organisations. And the emails will come into different mailboxes depending on the subject. So you might have a specific email address for freedom of information, or subject access, or information governance. And then the team will pick up the request. So they pick up the email and then they will enter the details of the request onto a spreadsheet. So all the key details, who the requester is, the date of the request, the nature of the request, and the timeline. So if it's 20 days that needs to be responded to, then that will be inputted into the spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet really is for reporting purposes. And the spreadsheets are often colour-coded, we hear, which helps teams keep track of the deadlines. And then the next part of the process is the team will set up a folder for each request. And this folder will be typically on an Access database or a shared drive, and it's used to store information relating to each case. So a team may have over 100 folders to manage at any one time, making it very difficult to manage on a day-to-day basis. So once the folder has been set up and the request has been assessed, so we know what the requesters are looking for, and a request for information is then sent to another department. And this request for information is usually via an email. So the email will be constructed, sent off to the department, and then typically if the email hasn't come back, then chase-ups, more emails are sent, chasing for overdue information. So resulting in multiple communication chains, really making it difficult to go back and find information. And then if approvals are needed to release the information, further emails are sent. So this time-consuming process really does create backlogs, resulting in more chase-ups and sometimes dissatisfaction from the requester. When we look at reporting, we constantly hear a big issue is the number of hours or even days it takes to compile reports on a monthly or a weekly basis. Because if the data is not inputted correctly into the spreadsheets, we hear that it throws the report out, and then considerable time is taken to go back and fix issues. And a lot of customers that we've spoken to really don't have a reporting mechanism built into these processes. So again, with visibility, because the cases are stored locally, visibility of workloads, it makes it really difficult to redistribute work. You know, when staff are off on sickness, unplanned sickness or holiday, there seems to be no visibility as well on repeat requests from the same person, or requesters that might have disability needs, or even have been difficult to deal in the past. So it would be really helpful for a case handler to have upfront knowledge of this, so that they're ready equipped to deal with these cases. And then when we look at the retention policy, working in line with the retention policies, teams really have to go in manually and separately delete or anonymise cases as well. So those are the issues that we hear. There's a lot of disjointed working there. So when we look at the benefits of a digital work stream, if you look at deploying a case management system, part of the case management system is that you have an embedded form on the website, so the public or employees can automatically populate the forms, and then it automatically populates the case management system with information. So reducing manual entry and human error. And the cases can be assigned automatically to the correct team to pick up and deal with efficiently. You can also have portals, so a requester can using login details can track the progress of a request. Some of our clients will have specific portals for maybe solicitors or police or employees if you're dealing with employee relation cases. So once the case has been assigned, the case handler can easily look at the requirements, assess what needs to be done, and move on to the next stage. And in a case handling system, you can have guidance built in for new starters in the team. So this means that information is ready available for them to help continue the process. And automatic notifications for each milestone and digital reminders, so the case handler can move on to the next stage. And this ensures that tasks are not stalled. So the biggest benefit that we've seen with replacing disjointed processes with a dedicated case management system is time. As staff hours are significantly reduced due to more efficient, streamlined processes. So documents are stored in the cloud and they're easily accessible by remote workers. And requesting information from other departments is conducted seamlessly, all through one platform. It's automatically uploaded, notifying the case handler when the information comes back in. And a digital process will automatically chase. So if the information's not been provided by the deadline, this means no more trawling through email chains, trying to locate the key information ready to resend, start the process again. Redactions are also built into the system, so we hear that this is a big time saver for our teams. So redaction with built-in intelligence, able to pick up frequent themes as well, saving time. And then the documents can be bundled into a PDF with page numbers and indexes, all ready to share with other relevant parties or the regulators that you may have to deal with. But in terms of customer experience, they will receive a smooth and efficient process, and customers really do expect to conduct their business online these days. And as an organisation, you'll have a transparent process. So you'll have dashboards available at both user and manager level, which gives an overview of the key tasks and deadlines. And extensive reports are available at the click of a button. So even key stakeholders can be subscribed to reports on a monthly or a weekly basis, even though they're not users of the system. And information can also be placed in searchable public databases, such as disclosure logs or your Ask HR portals. So really a system, a streamlined process, unifies departments as they can all work together from the same information. Employees can manage, assess and make decisions on current and accurate data, and the communication bottlenecks are removed. So really having a dedicated digital case management system really does provide organisations with business continuity. The data is encrypted, it's stored in the cloud, which means cyber attacks and ransom software are minimised. By deploying a cloud-based system, it's really kept up to date with future enhancements as software releases of latest technologies are deployed remotely and seamlessly, and all part of a licensed subscription. So those are really some of the benefits. We'd love to have the opportunity to discuss with you on sort of a one-to-one and see what that means to your organisation. The next slide, we've got a poll. So we'd really like to understand what methods you're using as an organisation or teams to process your cases. Is it spreadsheets or access databases? Do you have a dedicated software solution already? That would be interesting to hear. Or do you have an in-house solution? Sometimes we work with organisations that have in-house solutions that may stall in technology terms. Or D, other solutions.
Hi Dee, apologies about this. The poll system doesn't seem to be functioning correctly at the moment, so
okay.
we'll have to do that and follow up. It's got a bunch of gibberish questions on there instead. I'll have to investigate that one. I do apologise for this.
After the meeting, to set up meetings. But I think I'm going to hand over to Anita. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. I'm sorry about the poll. We wanted to gauge an idea from all of you as to what sort of challenges that you're facing and what sort of methods that you use currently to process cases and manage cases. But hopefully we can get some feedback from you post the webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about complaints resolution transformation and how a digital solution can sort of help organisations overcome any sort of gaps in their complaints handling processes. We hear a lot about failures in effective complaint handling in the public sector. You read in the news the reprimands or instructions from regulators to improve, call upon organisations to improve complaints handling, sort of from end to end on a complaint journey. And so accessibility is key. We all know that customers want the convenience that technology brings, you know, with that personalised and easy to use service, which a lot of customers, you know, especially with my experience in heading up complaint teams, you know, like the ease of use to be able to submit a complaint, make a complaint at any time that's convenient to them, and not go through call centres and be on the phones. And so digital transformation, the complaints in your complaints processes can improve the customer's experience and help organisation get things right the first time, or give opportunities to fix or resolve a problem quickly and avoid escalation. So it's important to make complaints a positive experience for everyone, and that's both officers who deal with complaints, and that's a wide variety of staff within public sector organisation. We've seen call centre frontline staff handle complaints at that first point of contact, and then we see there's complaints that are more complex move into the complaint specialist space. So it's really key that customers can access your organisation through whichever channel which is preferred to them, and be able to kind of raise those concerns with you. So organisations need to actively support staff through complaints processes and engage staff in positive and purposeful activities, and that means sort of like really make sure that staff are bought into that process and they don't see it as a tick box exercise, and also that the organisation manages and learns from complaints at the same time. So it'll be interesting to know how organisations on the call are actually doing this currently. A good digital complaints management system with an end-to-end model, well-designed complaint workflows, coupled with a flexible, scalable and cloud-based platform is the answer to making sure that you can transform the work that you do within the complaints sort of work journey for customers, and also for making it easier for your sort of resources to be able to manage and learn from those complaints. So digital transformation in your complaints process can improve the customer's experience, and we know that from speaking to our current sort of client base, and personally from my experiences working in the public sector, and how a case management system can help organisations get things right first time, and resolution at first point of contact. We've probably heard that within our careers quite often, and it's so key to make sure that you sort of capture any concerns and issues at the sort of outset, and help resolve those quickly. So we have a choice of channels, online forms Dee alluded to, but also through traditional sort of telephone calls, methods, emails, and for call centre customer services staff to be able to capture and resolve complaints at first point of contact, and then have a triage sort of process that refers complaints to your corporate complaints teams and specialist complaints teams. Dee alluded to the sort of customer portal. Again, that's about improving the customer experience and giving them some visibility over how their complaint is progressing. We hear a lot of stories about where complaints are submitted and then there's a period of silence, acknowledgements are delayed sometimes, and so the customer doesn't know what's happening. And so giving them some of that visibility through a integrated customer portal allows them to see what is happening in real time on their cases, and they can get regular updates in terms of acknowledgements and responses also. And it also provides customers, so the online form which Dee has talked about, so those online offers and the portals provide a customer with structured steps to cover all the relevant points of what they're complaining about, so that you don't actually have to spend time in clarifying, going back to them, and that process of ascertaining what their actual complaint is about, or whether you need more information. The portal, the online forms, provides them a structured format. It enables organisation to capture everything they need to know, including things like what's the preferred contact method for the customer for you to communicate back to them. Automation is key. Complaints handling involves a number of steps in the process. A digital solution just helps organisations to input the complaint automatically. You can triage it and identify, classify, and then assign and forward to the sort of person that will take a responsibility for that complaint. So all of that sort of is automated and streamlined for you, ensuring that the complaint reaches the right department and the right officer in a timely manner. And so there's automated workflows which would align with your regulatory frameworks, also statutory processes for your organisations is key. And these steps can be automated, including and incorporating best practice, which removes all of the sort of manual efforts that we see organisations having to undertake as part of their complaints handling processes. And it also provides an efficient output to the customer and an efficient output to the organisation in understanding, monitoring, and ensuring that anything that you've dealt with as part of a complaint in terms of agreed actions with the customer is carried out as promised. It allows you to track and monitor those agreed actions. So as a result of an investigation into a complaint, you may have agreed a couple of actions or one action or a number of actions across your organisation that will be undertaken to satisfy the outcome of the complaint. And so those can be sort of added into the case management platform for officers to monitor and track and complete, which is really sort of one of the higher features of a case management system. Not only sort of managing complaints at the first stage, it allows sort of escalations. So all stages of your complaints process will be managed in a single platform, in a single case. So you can see the movement on the customer's complaint journey of why they've moved to or escalated. And then when it reaches the regulator, you've got a good idea of the activities and conversations that have taken place with the complainant, the customer. Collaboration is you can collaborate so easily with a case management system, and we talk about emails going back and forth between officers, but with a case management system like iCasework, you can collaborate easily, and that's with officers and stakeholders to join forces to resolve a complaint. So digital transformation is an opportunity to increase unity and effective collaboration across your organisations, and particularly with regulators, because you're kind of ready to respond to a regulator because you have the sort of chronology and activity and audit trail of what's taken place whilst you're handling a complaint. And a good digital solution allows you to kind of remark on content, add important information, ask questions, and generally drive effective collaboration and teamwork. And that's where we talked about cultural changes. It brings the workforce together in helping resolve issues for your residents and your customers. It also removes the blocks in receiving information back, and we've alluded to this, where you're going through to trying to remember when you last contacted a colleague for information, and that's a bit of a burden in resource in doing that. Through a case management system, you can actually see where the pain points are, and you can avoid those repeat manual chases that you have to send, where the system is automatically giving you visibility around who's accountable for what tasks when it comes to complaints resolution. Just a little bit about on sort of integration, you know, with the system platform, the complaints management system. We talked about information governance, employee relations. All these platforms integrate with MS Word 365, your emails, Outlook emails, calendars, and also very key is applications like Power BI, intelligence applications to bring data sets together and create deeper, more helpful insights into the organisation. And we'll move on to some themes around understanding what your trends and emerging themes are. looking at root cause analysis. How long are your complaints teams spending on responding to complaints, investigating complaints through the various different stages of your complaints process? You can understand what sort of recompense, redress, compensation, financial compensation has been awarded to customers as a result of complaints handling or failures that you've identified through your investigations. And again, in past experience, very useful to kind of understand how to draft up your sort of annual reports that you might have to do around your complaints management in your organisation, and you know, the data and insight that you can absorb from the system is vast. We also have some functionalities around measuring customer satisfaction. Again, is key to service improvement. Methods include measuring sort of your first time response rates. If that's a sort of KPI that you have within your organisation, you can understand how quickly your team are responding to sort of customer complaints and managing expectations. You know, what's your resolution time, which indicates how successful your teams are in resolving complaints and problems at that first point of contact. And also then measuring post-complaint sort of outcomes reached. You can also measure how happy or unhappy the customer has been in the complaint journey and the resolution to their complaint, and how the complaint was handled by your complaints teams, etc. Moving on to the next slide, management and oversight. So again, we talked about some of the things that are key, but one of the most important things in changing and transforming sort of public services is senior buy-in. It's a must. You know, the tone and culture should be set from the top, and it's important to create an environment that supports people with information and the skills to carry out their roles. It should be easy to know who to turn to. For example, we hear all the time, we don't know who the key contacts are across the organisation. We don't know who the information holders are across our organisation, and to make it easier for staff who especially work in these areas to seek advice or information and have clear escalation routes. Policy and process is key. Obviously, we see on councils' websites, organisations' websites. You know, we work with the NHS, we work with local authorities. We see policies and processes are on their website. It's crucial. It outlines your approach to complaint handling or how you would manage information requests or any other case types that we've talked about throughout the webinar. You can avoid missing opportunities to put things right, or you can publish information and make it easily accessible to your sort of customer base, and move away from sort of repeat requests, shall I say, around information that they might be seeking for. A good policy talks about redress, remedies, etc. And how your organisation will go about making sure that customers are sort of those areas are addressed through your complaints policies and processes. Also, something that we've started to see, particularly around when I worked in before I left local government, was looking at the different sort of layers of users and roles within your organisation, and that sort of steers from frontline officers who could be your customer service advisors in the contact centres, to complaints officers within each department across your organisation, using a single digital platform sort of to identify so who is responsible at each of those levels and stages in in resolving complaints, managing complaints, investigating complaints, carrying out internal reviews, and then sort of making decisions around how you can improve services across the board. Transparency and accountability, we've kind of already touched on that, but insights at all stages. You know, what are your volumes, what tasks are outstanding across the board, what's performance looking like in real time, and then taking proactive action to ensure that those areas are addressed if there are sort of gaps within compliance, etc. And that works from understanding and opening up your sort of complaints handling across the organisation, so everyone can see what's happening and understand the sort of areas that they need to kind of maybe take rapid action around sort of adding resource into a particular space so that you can keep on top of peaks in volumes of complaints, etc. Or if there are emerging trends and themes, something could have happened within the organisation that has sparked off a high volume of complaints. How can you then sort of send in a sort of a rapid team to kind of wrap that around and work and deal with any and avoid backlogs basically around any peaks in complaints. Compliance, we know, is concerns. We hear from the local government social care ombudsman, we hear from the Information Commissioner's Office around compliance and organisations that are not complying and the reasons for those non-compliances and how they can take speedy action to kind of overcome those. We've seen a lot of case studies recently that the Information Commissioner's Office has talked about in terms of how organisations can improve compliance rates. A digital solution certainly does enable organisations to help kind of monitor timescales, your KPIs, and understand your performance on a day-to-day basis. And you can use things like dashboard reporting tools, which gives you that oversight at all levels in your organisation. So again, being proactive in identifying and preventing potential problems. Corrective actions, this is an area that's quite new to some organisations because you would deal with complaints and other sort of inquiries and you would, as a result of that, sort of have to take certain actions to kind of remedy the problem that you've identified, and that's not always possible to do within a 10-day timescale or a 20-day timescale. So where does corrective actions come in and how does that work? Well, it's basically you've agreed a form of resolution with the customer, and how do you plan and implement those actions that you've agreed, and how do you keep on top of those and not forget, or once a complaint is closed, you know, you might move away from that space and start dealing with the next complaint. How do you sort of understand and deal with those corrective actions which help eliminate or reduce the root cause and prevent the problems that some people have complained about happening again? So the goal here is to have a clear and positive feedback loop that demonstrates the effectiveness and sustainability of how corrective actions are managed across your organisation. You can have a clear plan and detailed action plan that outlines what needs to be done, who will do it, and when it will be done by, and how it will be measured. So you will have corrective actions active in the system alongside complaints, so they're not closed and forgotten about. And the organisation's senior leaders can track and monitor those to ensure that those happen. It's a much more cost-effective approach in the long term, helping you to get it right first time, helping you to remedy issues that you've identified have reoccurred or a reoccurring theme, and helping your organisation to learn sort of valuable lessons from sort of past failings, really. And these can be then embedded into long-term service improvement action plans. You can collect and analyse data to confirm what the issues are. Have they been eliminated or reduced? Have the root causes been identified? Do they involve other departments across the organisation? Because sometimes complaints can be siloed and you can then just think it's about my department and I'm going to resolve the complaint. It's to think outside the box and say, does this actually affect other departments across the organisation? And you can improve the quality of the service that you're providing through these service improvement action plans. And it's essentially continuous improvement. You can also associate service improvement plans with your stakeholders, your contractors, to ensure that they're aligned with you and they're working in line with your principles and operating policies. And you can share those wider learnings across the organisation and put things right and plan to avoid sort of those things to happening again. Sorry, next slide. And oversight and reporting is one of the key features of our case management system, is to have the oversight capabilities, and that's not from any particular angle. It's a very it's a diverse sort of reporting mechanism. It helps you kind of use the data and insights to shape service design and improve the customer experience. What you see there on the screen, I'm not sure if it's visible clearly, but you know, there's a few screenshots there of you measuring the outcomes. So on a monthly or quarterly basis, how many complaints were upheld, and then why were they upheld? And is there things that you can do locally to understand the reasons for those complaints being upheld? and address those. So it's the reporting and sort of capabilities in the system helps you sort of benefit from greater visibility and insight into your data. By updating data capture and management, you can gain sort of a transparent view of how your organisation is performing, how are they complying, and senior management and heads of services and around complaints management can step in and start to support staff to make sure that those issues are sort of managed. We look at FOI requests, for example. We know that certain requests come in time and time again. You know, how can we kind of understand what those top sort of requests are, and how can we make that information readily accessible in the public domain as part of your sort of maybe publication scheme or disclosure logs, so that customers and citizens can self-serve for themselves, allowing officers to kind of focus on sort of the value work and not the repeat sort of work. So the reporting features allow you to understand where there may be weaknesses in your policies and procedures or challenges relating to resource, and what that could be the reasons for delays. You know, are your staff, do they lack motivation? Are they dealing with complaints or resolutions to prevent cases escalating to a regulator perhaps, and not actually dealing with it in the way that your sort of standards define and your policies define it should happen? So there's a number of things that plays into the information that you can pull out from the system to understand where you are. And just to touch on a few of the features is sort of the dashboard environments that we have, team dashboards, we have organisational dashboards, so different levels of management can look at the levels that they are accountable for. You can see graphical sort of views at team level and organisational level. You can slice and dice data for simple analysis. You have the ability to break down information even further and consider it from different angles. Most importantly, obviously, it supports monitoring compliance and spotlights accountability within your organisation. And then you can sort of all those key features that would come into good reporting. You can actually understand volumes and where the peaks and troughs are, and redress, compensation, and all those sorts of things. Audit trail, you know, what's happened on cases, who's dealt with what. You can search for particular actions that have been completed by who and when, and so it kind of gives you a lot of visibility around making sure that your complaints process is managed effectively across your organisation, and you can track and monitor performance across the board.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a really, really good insight into the benefits of digital transformation. So we're just nearing the end of the webinar now. So just a second to last slide, just to summarise. When we work with organisations such as yourselves, really the biggest return of investment is the hours. The staff hours are significantly reduced with deploying a central system that gives you all of the above that we spoke about. So the customer and employee experiences are dramatically improved. So whether that's you know, you've got citizens or patients or customers requesting information, whether it's employees that you're dealing with employee relation cases, you know, the stress is removed and requests are handled effectively and rapidly. So the organisation, you as an organisation, really can have peace of mind that you are dealing with these requests efficiently. Your data is held securely. If you're using a supplier that can deploy evolving technologies, making sure that the system that you've deployed is always kept up to date, regardless of where you are in the contract. So it's been great to have the opportunity to host this webinar for you. Thank you all so much for sparing the time. We really hope that you've been given some good insights on how streamlined working can help your organisation. We'd love the opportunity. We've got the team on board here and we'd love the opportunity to work with you and have an initial conversation with you, really to see how you're working. And Anita works in tandem with all of us in the sales team, and as you can see, Anita's got some really good experience and can help with really defining a business case to support a transition into a new way of working. So we will send an email at the end of the follow-up, and it'd be really good if we could have some contact and get your feedback on what we've shared today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you very much for that, Dee and Anita. We've just had a couple of questions come in during the session, but to be honest, I think you might have answered the vast majority of it there in terms of what's currently driving the digital transformation. So you've talked about the increase in expectations of customers and the need to provide services efficiently and effectively. Would you have anything more to what is currently driving digital transformation?
I think, yeah, I think talking from personal experience, when my previous role, when we embarked on the journey of digital transformation, I think a lot of people kind of think about it as sort of efficiency savings, obviously, but also, the cultural transformation was very difficult to get over, because I think people were worried about digital transformation. But having worked in that space for a number of years, the efficiencies we're looking to kind of deliver are around ensuring customers are given a seamless service when they contact an organisation. It's not necessarily, it's about obviously efficiencies, but it's not necessarily, it's to move the workforce to focus on sort of value work rather than the sort of the manual work that takes place within businesses, where officers are spending a lot of time dealing with and identifying problems or manually trying to resolve a lot of the sort of issues that they're faced with in public sector organisations and private sector organisations. It is to to allow organisations to reduce operational efficiencies, but it's also about boosting performance and the use of a new digital technology, how it can transform and save time in some of those in some of those areas of work that we still see is very sort of backward in terms of case management. And I'll talk in the context of case management, how a sort of digital transformation drivers are the reason. But that's why people are moving to using these digital tools to help them drive performance in organisations. But I think we've touched on a lot of the drivers of digital transformation throughout our presentation, so I won't sort of bore you by going over those again. But you did see through these slides the benefits of digital transformation and what's actually driving from our client base, what's driving them to move towards those platforms.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anita. And the other one was sort of, I think it sort of puts a number. So what actual results are existing clients seeing from digital transformation? I mean, I must admit, when I'm conducting client understanding calls to generate case studies and things like that, the magic number does seem to be 50%. Whether it's from the time taken to onboard a new member of staff, or the administration time, or dealing with the cases, or the number of steps taken and sort of clearing the backlogs, it does seem to me that we can handle twice the number of cases, or we are saving 50% of the time on this sort of front. But yeah, I mean, we've got a variety of those case studies on our website to go through that. I'm aware of the fact that we're coming into the end of the webinar timing now. So realistically, I was just going to thank Dee and Anita for their time, and of course all of the attendees, and we'll be conducting follow-up on this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.